Welcome into Dolphins All Access. It is a homecoming week for the Miami Dolphins, finally playing at home, week 3 of the NFL season. Mike Cunio alongside Steve Goldie Goldstein. Goldie, they got the Broncos coming into town. It's a feel-good story. Not only the Dolphins winning, Mike McDaniel's playing the team he was a ball boy for, but Bradley Chubb, who had a big week last week against the Patriots, going up against his former team. What do you think this means for him?
Well, it means a lot. I had a chance to talk to him, and he said, I'm not going to lie, it is personal. He's got a lot of friends over there, a lot of guys, in Bradley Chubb's words, that he feels like they're family, actually. He says, but this is my family now, so it's going to mean a lot, though. Make no mistake, Mike, this is a team that, for whatever reason, they gave up on. Yep. They traded him last year to the Dolphins. I know they got a lot back, but they traded him. They didn't think that he could be part of the big puzzle in order to win. So he would love to get away with a W. And by the way, the guy calling the defense upstairs, Vic Fangio, is Broncos head coach. He'd love the W as well. So, these guys probably won't say much, although Chubb did, but Fangio, Chubb, because he admitted it's a big game for him. And I think somewhere deep inside, Mike McDaniel grew up a Broncos fan, going to training camp, asking for autographs as a little kid. He loved to get this W.
It's so funny when you think about the teams that Miami Dolphins have ties to. The first one that comes to mind is 49ers, but really it might be the Denver Broncos that have the most ties. And by the way, you mentioned Bradley Chubb and taking on this Dolphins team as a family. Tua Tagovailoa mentioned it in his press conference Wednesday that when Bradley Chubb was brought in, he was a class act all the way from the start. Reached out to Tua first. He got here so fast, Tua didn't even have a chance to reach out to him, but Bradley Chubb was the one to start reaching out to players automatically. I think it goes to show the character of that guy and why they love him so much in the locker room. Let's stick with the defense for a second, though, because this week, we heard Christian Wilkins mention it, that Zach Sealer had to give that defensive line a talking to after that Chargers game. What do you think it says about the leadership in that room?
It's interesting. We talked to Sealer on the Wednesday after the Charger game in the locker room. And Zach's a terrific guy, usually kind of lighthearted. And I could sense he had a chip on his shoulder. He was unhappy, angry, and I think maybe even a little bit embarrassed by the way that D-line played against that Chargers running game, giving up 234 on the ground. I think it's awesome, Mike. On every team, you need guys to step up. It needs to be collaborative. You can't just have one or two guys as the leaders. And it doesn't matter who's got, the little C on his jersey. You want to have everybody do that. I think when you get a contract like that, he's taken care of now. It's a long-term deal for a lot of money. And I just think Zach Sealer is very comfortable as being a guy on that D-line and on that defense that's willing to say something. And, for Christian Wilkins, who's a good leader himself, for him to say that's the thing that fired them up, I think it's a really good sign.
To almost be taken aback. Christian Wilkins has a lot to say, especially on the field. For him to be taken aback. By the way, that contract, you'd think a guy would be complacent. No. It's fired him up, Zach Sealer, excuse me. These two are so close. Sometimes you tie them in together. Yeah.
And, to that point, I think General Manager Chris Greer deserves a lot of the credit over the last few years. The types of players that they brought in.
Yes.
You mentioned Bradley Chubb, what he did when he first got here. Now you mentioned Zach Sealer picking him up, giving him a contract. I think everybody may be a little bit surprised in a great way. Everybody knew Tyreek Hill was a great player. I'm not sure we knew he was the type of leader that he is. These are the guys the Dolphins have gone out and they've given the money to, and they're not just terrific players and great talents.
Yeah.
We're seeing some of these things now off the field, and I think it all stems from Mike McDaniel and his type of leadership.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a voice on this team. There's really no pecking order, and I like that.
Good personalities. I mean, whether it's something that's in the news, an injury, whenever you go into that locker room and talk to guys, they're always pretty much stand up and we're willing to talk about it. Talk about Terron Armstead. I mean, he's been injured basically the entire time he's been a Dolphin, but when he's allowed to talk, because injured players don't typically talk to the media, but once he is back out there at practice and you go talk to him, he doesn't hide. He's a straight shooter, and that's how a lot of these guys in this team are. Speaking of Terron, he's going to ramp up this week as practice goes. Is this a week where you think he finally gets on the field and plays?
Well, it seems like it. I mean, he was close to playing supposedly in New England last Sunday night. He actually went through the warm-up, and they figured, hey, let's be smart. Now, look, you can't take anybody lightly in this league. We know that. Once you do, that's when you end up getting upset. The Dolphins are a better team than the Denver Broncos going into Buffalo the week after. I do think it's just a medical situation. And if they don't think he's quite 100%, they'll probably hold him out another week. But it's certainly, trending, in his words, trending in that direction that he's full go and ready to get out there. The nice thing is, Mike, this team's not desperate for him.
No.
Obviously, he's an all-pro. He's a great player for the last decade, but what Kendall Lamb has done going in there at that left tackle spot and what the whole offensive line has incredibly done without Terron, it's not one of those situations where you say, hey, we're in huge trouble if he doesn't play. They played very well the first 2 weeks.
And the way they've drawn it up and schemed it up, that Tua gets the ball out so fast, that certainly helps as well. We mentioned some of the medical stuff with Terron. I don't want to leave this without mentioning Jaylen Waddle. The time of this taping, it is Wednesday, so we heard from Mike McDaniel today say Waddle's still in the concussion protocol. He's progressing through it. We did see him out there at practice observing. He stretched a little bit, then watched from the sidelines with Coach McDaniel, so we'll see how he progresses. Obviously, I don't think Tua's played a game without Waddle and Tyreek at the same time. So this could be a week where it happens. We'll have to see as this goes on, but certainly something to keep an eye on. Steve Goldstein, thank you so much for your insights as always. Thanks for coming in. Looking sharp, man.
Well, you too, bro. You know,
with the tucked-in shirt and everything, making me look bad. I'm like a slob over here.
School in summer. No class. Terrible.
Wow. All right. Well, that's going to do it for Dolphins All Access. For Steve Goldstein, I'm Mike Cunha. We'll catch you next week.